How's it going? You guys doing all right today? Oh, that's a little warm. Let's turn that main down. All right, so The Crow is one of those films that you've all probably seen, and for a lot of reasons. Mainly because it's a great film. There's really not just a whole lot I can say negatively about the film. It's a really great film. And a lot of star power in that film, and we're really super lucky today to have with us Rochelle Davis. Hi, how are you, madam?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm doing well. So, before we get going and we take any questions that anyone might have, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, and whatever else you'd like to talk about, and we'll go from there.
Okay, well, my name is Rochelle, and I am 36 years old. I have a little boy at home that is going to be 13 soon, so he's about the age that I was when I did the movie, which is a little freaky at this point.
Now, he doesn't sound very little. 13 is not little.
He's little, trust me. He's a tiny kid. Yeah, he's really he's skinny little beanpole of a child.
Hold on to it. Tell him to hold on to it. Stay that way forever.
Well, every time I see him, it feels like he grew about 3 inches taller, but I'm like, no, can I just squish you back down? But no, he's a great kid, and he's what keeps me going every day. And other than that, I live in Philadelphia. I do conventions. I do small parts in independent films here and there. I'm always open to anything that comes about, but I am considered disabled, so I stay at home and take care of my health, take care of myself, take care of my son, and all my rats and my dog.
That's the most important thing. You got to take care of yourself before you take care of anything else. That's just a good general rule across the board.
Yeah.
Before we left, we have a 6-year-old, and she got handed down an iPad, and her sister figured out how to put iMessage on the iPad. So we were able to text message a 6-year-old when we got here the other night.
Yep.
And I put on Facebook, I was like, I'm not really ready for this. I can't imagine having a 13-year-old, much less now we have a 6-year-old who knows how to text message. It's just super weird.
And they work it better than we do. They work those iPads it's like a futuristic movie with like the captain of an airship. They're just like, it's amazing.
A book? What's a book? I don't know.
Yeah, they're like, book? I can read it on my iPad.
Yeah. Well, why is it not swiping the right?
Yeah, I can't swipe the pages over. What's going on? I want to zoom in.
It's good. How did you get your start in acting?
My start in acting actually started with a trip to Children's Hospital. I, about 2 years old, started constructing sets in my living room, and I would move furniture to the point where I got a hernia infection from it and had to be rushed to the hospital and have surgery done. So after that, my mom was like, well, I think this is something she likes to do, and we're not going to be able to stop her, so let's just help her. And from that point on, I just kind of, anything that was involved with school or camp or any side thing that I could get into that had to do with drama, I was there. I did a lot of dance growing up, ballet and hip-hop and jazz and such, and singing lessons and just anything I could get into, but not for the, most people think that I'm like that child star that the mother was pushing into. It was quite the opposite. I was like, Mom, I want to do this, and she was like, it's not going to get you anywhere, and I was like, I don't care, I want to do it. So it just became my life.
Sounds like you have an awesome mom.
My mom's pretty awesome, yeah.
Not many parents are very supportive of that. I mean, you know, as a dad, like, hey, I would like my kid to grow up and do this, this, and this. And, you know, with the political climate, it is what it is. You know, we said, hey, you know, you could grow up and be president. Yeah. And her response is, nah. Well, you could, Dad, but I don't want to be. Like, no, thank you.
My mother always had a saying. She always said, don't tell her she can't do it. Because as soon as you tell her she can't, she'll show you she can. So that was her thing. My father was very supportive throughout my whole life and still is. It brought tears to his eyes when he saw the film for the first time, and it was very emotional to see him so proud of me over something. I never expected to be able to make him so proud of me, but he was and still is. He comes to see me at conventions and he just is like, this blows me away. This what it is just incredible. So he was an amazing support system and taught me about finances and, like, you know, being an adult at 13. He kind of taught me that.
Well, to be thrust into the film industry, you sort of needed to be.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I had a checking account and a credit card and a financial advisor at 13 years old, and my dad's like, all right, you know, we got to sit down and learn how to balance a checkbook, how to not spend things you don't need to spend on. And my mom was quite the opposite. My mom was like, oh, you got a credit card? Let's go to Walmart and get crafts and do things. And, you know, they were just very different people, but they both supported me in very different ways and helped me along in those ways.
Nice. What was, I guess you did theater before? Did you do any theater?
Lots of theater. Lots of theater, yeah. I did, every year that I was in school, I was in at least 2 plays. And then in the summer, I would go to camp and do at least a play or 2. It just became my existence. I couldn't breathe if I wasn't acting. That was just the way I felt. Like, if I didn't have something I was working on, some lines I was memorizing, some character I was developing, I didn't feel whole.
That makes sense. So what was it that got you into this role in The Crow? How did The Crow come about for you?
Well, I actually did some open call work, just going to open call auditions at first, and once my grandmother, who was really my main support system during The Crow, she was the person that took me to all my auditions. She took me to the set of The Crow to film. She was pretty convinced that once I did some open calls, it would be like, oh, this is a nightmare. I want out of this field. I didn't know it was like this. And so she just figured, let me do that. I did a few open calls, and then I said, I love this. I want to do more. And she was like, no. And she got me a manager, and I went to my first audition was The Crow that I had a manager with. And I went, and about 4 callbacks later, I ended up getting the part. So it took quite a while. It took a few months of auditioning, but it was just something like as soon as I read the part, I was like, oh, I love this girl. I want to be her. I want to do this part.
What was the audition process like?
The audition process started slow. You came in, you read some lines, you walked out. That was about it. After a couple auditions, though, they start to like ease you into things. You know, they would say to me, so how do you feel about being in the rain all the time?
Literally every day.
Like all day, every day. And if it's cold too, would that bother you? And have you ever ridden a skateboard? Or how do you feel about heights? Are you afraid of falling? You know, and everything they asked me, it was pretty much easy. I had never skateboarded before, but I was like, I'd learn. I don't mind. You know, I don't care about heights. I don't care about the rain. And after the 3rd audition, I came back for the 4th, and I actually brought my little brother's monkey in with me because I knew it was like a really tense situation, like this was coming down to the moment of whether I was going to get this part or not. So I basically walked up to the door. The woman assistant had walked in to introduce me into the room, and I didn't walk in after her, and they all got silent. And everybody just kind of sat there, and I stuck my hand in the door with the monkey in, and I squeezed it, and it went, ooh, ah! And everybody in the room just stopped, and they looked up, and I walked in, and I said, tension breaker, had to be done. And they just started cracking up, and they were like, this kid's hilarious. So I sat down, I read my lines, we did more interviewing about what I could and couldn't do, and I went home, and a little while later, I was called and told I was hired.
Wow. What was it like as a 13, 14-year-old kid walking onto this set? I mean, obviously, at that time, no one knew the pop cultural significance this film would have.
Yeah.
But I know me as a 13-year-old kid, I was worried about like playing basketball and hanging out with my friends, and that's about it. I mean, aside from the financial aspects of it, you know, with balancing a checkbook and being an adult, what was it like knowing that going in that this was a work that they thought you could do? What kind of expectations did you put on yourself to be able to do this?
Well, being that I had done so much in my past for theater and had put so much of my heart into things, I felt like I was ready for that. And there was a lot of expectation on set. I knew that from walking in, and it was a big set. And you walk in and you're like, wow, like this is a lot to take in. You know, they have just huge amounts of clothing for you to try on, to pick the right outfits for you, and they're going to mess with your hair over and over again to see what they want to do with that, and they're going to do makeup on you over and over again until they get your face right and all that kind of stuff. But I handled it really well. I just kind of fell right into the groove. Like, as soon as I got in there and started to talk to people, I was like, this is not more foreign than anything else I've ever done. It's just going to be on film now. And as you said, I didn't know it would even be out in theaters, let alone something this big. It was just, I'm going to do this part, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and I'm going to try to impress the way I always do when I'm on, you know, a stage. I'm going to do it on a set. And so that's what I did. I was myself when I wasn't on, you know, screen, and then when they put me in front of the camera, I just snapped right into Sarah, and that's who I was.
And I know me as a 13 or 14-year-old kid, I would have been a little nuts if I had the opportunity to be in the same room for multiple times with a guy like Ernie Hudson. You know, I'm sure you'd seen Ghostbusters at that point in your life. What was that like for you?
Well, there was a few people that I had recognized when I got there. One of them being Tony Todd, because I had seen Candyman. Yeah. And I recognized
you do have
him.
Awesome parents. Oh my gosh.
I did. I had great parents. But I saw him, and we talked, and we were talking very normally, and I was standing I'll never forget, because I was standing at the bottom of the stairs of my dressing room, and he said something along the lines of, when I was filming Candyman, and I went, and I just started backing up slowly up the stairs. And I just looked at him and I said, you scared the bejesus out of me. Like, I can't even look at you right now. And he just laughed. He's like, no, I'm a gentle giant. I'm a big guy, but I'm not scary. And I was like, okay, all right, get it together. Like, this is just a character he plays.
He's still creepy. I'm sorry. I don't care how gentle of a giant he is.
He is the sweetest, most loving teddy bear I've ever met in my life.
He's a really nice guy, but it still comes creepy. But
he definitely looks scary and sounds scary. But when I see him, he just squeezes me and hugs me like a big teddy bear, and I love it. But same with Michael Berryman. I had seen Weird Science, and I was like, I know this face. Where do I know this face from? And Ernie Hudson, I knew. You know, they had told me he was in Ghostbusters. I'm like, cool, I'm working with a Ghostbuster. Rock on. You know, what's up with that? Brandon, I didn't even know who he was or who his father was.
Yeah.
Which to him was like a blessing, because he had been his whole life just seen as this son of somebody.
Right.
And he introduced himself to me from 50 feet away, I think. We were driving in a car, and I saw him standing at the makeup area, and I just see hands waving in the air, and I'm like, what is, and he's going, Rochelle, I'm Brandon, nice to meet you. And I just reached my hands out and I said, nice to meet you too. Once we were actually together on set, and he explained to me, like, don't you know who my father is? And I'm like, no. Dude, I don't know who you are. I don't know who your dad is. I don't know what you want me to tell you. And he said, no, that's amazing. Like, I'm so glad that you don't know.
Wasn't it great before the internet?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, definitely. I don't know who you are. That's cool. Yeah.
And I had seen Bruce Lee films because my father was a big Bruce Lee fan, but I couldn't put the two together. I wouldn't have known at 13 who the heck Bruce Lee was and why that was significant in any way. But he was just so excited to know that I was like, what I call it is a clean slate. Right. My son was a clean slate for me. He didn't know I was in a movie until he was 11 years old. So he knew nothing about The Crow. Nothing. He knew nothing about The Crow. He knew nothing about Brandon Lee. He knew nothing about Bruce Lee. So he was a clean slate. And when I said to him, you know, Mommy did a movie, and he was like, yeah. And then he came to a convention and saw people come up to me and talk to me, and he was like, Mom, you're famous.
I was like, what movie did you do, Mom?
Yeah. He's like, why are these people? And I'm like, it's all right, we'll watch it. So we went home and we put it on, and I sat there grinding my teeth and biting my nails and just like, oh God, please let him like this movie. Please let him like this movie. And it ended, and he saw the kissing part, and he goes, ugh, kissing. And I said, oh, it's just the end. It's okay. And it finished, and the credits started to roll, and he turned to me and he goes, can we watch it again?
Yes.
And I said, that's it. I made the best fan I could make in my life was my son. So I understood what Brandon felt that moment was for me. I was like a clean slate for him.
Right.
I knew nothing of him, so I could take him for who he was, just as he was in front of me, without any other thoughts in my mind of other things from the past. So I think that was pretty amazing to him, and I find it to be pretty cool.
The Crow is one of those movies that when you're introduced to it, you're not really sure what you're getting into,
Yeah.
And I can't imagine being 14 and being in the middle of that, but as a teenager, when I watched it, was introduced to it, I didn't really know what to expect. When you read through the script, what all did you expect this to be?
I expected it to be very dark. I expected all the things that were pretty obvious about the way it was described. But I didn't expect such a, such a feeling from it. Like, when I watched it for the first time in California, when they played the premiere for me and my father, we flew out to California and we went to a little private theater. They didn't have a big premiere, of course, because of his death. So we just individually went and watched it separately. And me and my father went in and we watched it together. And I remember the beginning part where I was narrating. I was like, okay, I remember this from doing the voiceovers. And then it went into the next part, and then when he starts to come into the film and it starts to rev up with the music, I just remember my body getting like a feeling, like I got goosebumps everywhere, and I was like, what the hell did I do here? This is amazing. Like, I can't believe this is what I'm seeing. And still to this day, I watch it and I'm just like, for this being a 23-year-old movie, it's spectacular.
It holds up really well. I mean,
Yeah.
really, really well. Not a lot of film does that, but
yeah,
The
it
Crow
really
actually
just
does.
it hit me, and not because I filmed it, but because had I not filmed it and watched it, I would have still felt that way. It was just, it pulled me in, just like it would any other watcher. Anybody else that was watching that movie felt that same pull towards it, and I felt it too, and I was just so amazed to be a part of that.
Does it seem that maybe it was a little before its time?
I think it was. I think it was definitely before its time. I think nowadays, like, we have all this CGI and this crazy stuff that we do, but this was like art,
Yeah.
This was a guy that, the director, he went out there and he made things look incredible without all that technology to do it. The scene where Brandon shoots the gun and the rings fly out of the tip of the gun and you can see the rings flying out of the gun. I mean, like, who does that without CGI nowadays? Nobody. That's just not heard of. So I was just so impressed by everything, and everybody that worked on it just worked so stinking hard that you could really feel it. You could like smell the sweat coming out of that movie. Like, people worked so hard on it.
There's another film from around that time, Dark City. I don't know if anybody's aware of that, but those two movies always stand out to me as almost out of place in time, because they do seem like maybe they really were well before their time.
Yeah, and Dark City was also Alex Price,
Yeah.
so that's another testament to what a great director he was. He was amazing. He just had an eye for art. And I don't call it movie making when it comes to him. I call it art.
Not when it looks like that. Not the end result. No.
No, and the fact that they had Robert Zuckerman as their still photographer. He's the top photographer right now in our country, and he's amazing. He just did these beautiful luster prints of things that were just captured moments and facial expressions, and just everybody just did such a great job, and everybody put their art form into it. They didn't just come and make a movie, they came and they put their heart into it, and that meant a lot.
What's it like now, 20 years down the road, to see people being introduced to this film, to talk about the film. What's it like for you now as an adult to talk about that experience and to see a new generation of people accept this movie for what it is?
It's pretty breathtaking. It's like, I have to kind of, I mean, I had a little boy walk up to me yesterday dressed up as the Crow.
Wasn't he awesome?
He was
amazing. Oh my gosh.
He's the best cosplay I've ever seen of the Crow in my life. He had the guitar on his back, and
had the little bird on
and
his
the
shoulder.
little bird on the
Awesome.
shoulder, and the makeup and the long hair, and he was just amazing. And he just turned 7. I'm like, you're not even old enough to know what this movie is, and you love it. I had a 16-year-old girl walk up to me a couple years ago and just burst into tears. And I was like, are you okay? And she was like, you don't know how much this changed me. And I'm like, how do you even know this movie? This is like, it just blows my mind. But it's still shocking to me every time I hear a story or talk to someone. I talked to someone at the last convention I did not that long ago. He came up to me and told me that I saved his life. He said, your character inspired me to understand that, you know, people had it bad other than me, and that you could get through it. There was ways to work through that, and, you know, to be strong, to be tough, and to get through life. And he's like, every time I feel sad or depressed, I put that movie on and it makes me feel better. And I was just like, it's a movie, but I understand. I get it. I get why he felt that way, but it was so touching. It was, I almost cried because this man was just standing there telling me, you saved my life. If you hadn't done that role, I could have killed myself because I just didn't have anything to live for. And that made me realize there were other kids out there that had tough lives, and they were getting through it too, and we could all do that. So it was incredible.
That's why I think that maybe this movie does always feel like it was before its time, because, you know, we can all go, like, our podcast group will go watch a new movie when it comes out. We went and watched Independence Day Thursday night, which is horrible. Don't go watch it. So we'll go watch a movie now. Like we watched Captain America: Civil War. Great movie. We had a great experience watching the movie. Fun, really exciting, energetic. I forgot that we even went and watched it. You know, it's like, oh yeah, we watched Captain America. Most things like that now don't give you that impression weeks later that a film like that, I mean, and even now it's been probably, you know, 10, 15, maybe longer than that, years since I was introduced to the film. That's one of those things that you think about, you're like, oh man, The Crow, that was a deep movie. You know, it was not just a movie. It lingers.
It doesn't just end at the end of the movie. You think about it. You think about all the little lines in it that mean something. You know, it can't rain all the time, and believe in angels, and real love is forever, and all these lines that really mean something in the movie. You take it with you, and you use it in your life, and it's like, I've had people that I post online, you know, just having a crappy day, I'm just hating my life today, and people will say, can't rain all the time, and I'm like, at first I'm like, ha ha, you know, but then in the same time I'm like, they're right, you know, that's a good philosophy, and I know, because I said it.
That's true. I think it also speaks to the movie that The Crow is one of those films that anytime anyone starts talking about reboots, like, oh man, they're going to reboot The Crow. I guess that's a testament to the film, but also one of the things that you don't ever want. This is one of those movies that I think is totally untouchable. Don't do it. Leave it alone.
I completely agree. I've had this discussion with many people about the reboot. There's just certain things that should not be touched once they're done, and there's more than just that. Like Rocky Horror Picture Show, I'm disgusted they're remaking that. I'm just
this is why we can be friends. This is exactly why we can be friends.
We can be BFFs. Totally.
I think Laverne Cox. I think she's wonderful. She's fabulous.
She's great.
In Orange Is the New Black.
Wonderful
is she
actress. She's
Absolutely
not Frankenfurter.
Yeah,
That's just not going to happen. It's not going to, and it's like, why? To make a little extra money and just make people irritated that you've remade a movie that they have stuck in their mind as the one.
Yeah.
And that's the way The Crow is. The Crow is The Crow. I I don't even consider there other movies that are The Crow, like the second, third, fourth TV show, blah, blah, I don't friggin' know. I've never seen any of them. I never would.
No.
I will never watch them. They don't even exist to me. People are like, The Crow 2. I'm like, The Crow what?
Yeah.
I'm like, there's The Crow. I don't know what you're talking about, The Crow 2. Oh, there was a Crow 2? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because it's just an untouchable, you know,
Yeah.
and Brandon would have wanted it that way. He would have wanted it untouchable, and if they reboot it, they're going to regret it. They're going to lose money, and they're going to go, why the hell did we do this? We had a great masterpiece, and now we went and rebooted it, and nobody likes it, and that was a waste of money.
I do feel like it'll be one of those that it's probably not well received. It may be one of those that you sort of have to check out to see what they've done to it.
Right.
But it's like we talked about earlier, you know, in the first iteration of the film, there's no CGI. It's all, it is what it is. It'll speak for itself. There's no way they will do that if they reboot this film.
No.
There's just no way.
No.
And
if they were really trying to do something like to, you know, bring back the first one in some way, you know, and they were doing it in some sort of artistic fashion that really made sense, I would be maybe a little bit more for it. But as far as I know, it's just, you know, I mean, aside from James O'Barr, who I love to death, and he is a great man, and I appreciate the fact that he wants to do another version and that, but I think at the same time, the people that are behind it are not James O'Barr, and they're not his vision. They don't care. They care about the money. They care about making money off of it. And, you know, they probably will make some money off of it, but will it do what the first one did? Never. It's just never going to happen. So why bother?
And someone out there will see that version before they see The Crow. And that's just sort of a travesty.
Right.
You know?
Well, the only thing I can hope is that people will see it and go, oh, this is a reboot of an original? Let me see the original, because, you know, and then more people will love the original. But I just think it's just such a waste of time. It's just, you know, there's no reason for it. I don't know. And it seems like they don't seem to get that the universe does not want them to make this film.
Apparently.
It's been people dropping out left and right. They went bankrupt at one point, I think. I mean, it's just been one thing after another thing. It's like, if the universe isn't telling you something, you're not listening. Like, you're just not listening to what they're saying, because this is not a movie that should be made.
No, probably not. So what was life for you like after the film and the years after the film?
Well, my first year when I got home was pretty terrible, to be honest. People were not nice. Kids were horrible to me in school. I had a lot of people would say, you know, just things that you wouldn't imagine anybody saying about anybody's death, let alone, you know, somebody that went through a real traumatic death.
Right.
You know, people would say, were you there? Did you see it? You know, did you watch him get shot? You know, did you see him die? Like,
who says that?
Exactly. And I would turn to them and say, do you have a grandparent? Well, my grandmother's dead. Yeah, did you see her die? Yeah, right. And they'd look at me and I'd say, doesn't that sound weird now? Yeah. You know, and but kids back then, it was just, they didn't care. They just wanted to, they were excited about some kid in the movie, or some kid in their school being in a movie, and they thought, you know, well, you're not human now. You're just a movie star. We're going to just treat you like that. And, so I went into hiding, to be honest. I kind of, after I left Philadelphia, I went to Miami to live with my mother, and I literally went into hiding. People would ask me, you know, they would say, oh, you're the girl from The Crow, right? And I'd say, no, I just look like her. And they'd say, but you sound like her too. And I'd say, yeah, it's weird, isn't it? No, really, aren't you? No, I'm really not. I mean, I live in Miami. What do I look like, some Hollywood actress? And they'd be like, oh, okay, you know. I just wouldn't even admit it to people, let alone, you know, talk to people about it. And then I think it was about 2008 that I started doing conventions, and somebody said, can I bring you to this convention to sign, you know, do autograph signing and meet fans? And I thought, I don't know. And then I thought, well, you know what? I think I'm ready at this point. I've had my son. I've had a life. We've been doing things, and, you know, it was all right from that point on. So I've been handling a lot better now. But yeah, for most of my teenage years and my 20s, I just steered clear of that whole thing.
So what's the response been like at conventions with fans to see what kind of an impact the movie has had significantly?
It's just been, I don't know, it's like a whirlwind. It really is. It's like a whirlwind of, I mean, fans are amazing. There's so many out there and so many different types. You know, it's like there's no one type of fan that's a Crow fan.
Right.
Like I always say, Crow fans are the coolest people, and they are. But they're all shapes, sizes, colors, forms, it doesn't matter. And they're all into different things other than the Crow, you know, separately. And they're all very supportive and sweet. You know, I've met very few people that were rude or nasty to me. Everybody's always been very kind and gentle with the way they speak to me, and that means a lot to me.
That's awesome. It, you know, is being thrust in that situation as a kid, and, you know, now as a parent, is this something that you would want for your son to be in this business?
It's a really funny thing that you mentioned that. I did a film, I was working on a film that they stopped filming because of the director was having a child and he couldn't quite juggle. But it was called Alice. And I was working on it, and my son came up to be an extra. And I thought, this is cool. He'll do a little thing and he'll know what it's like to be part of a film. Well, about halfway through the filming, he was standing there and he got tired of jumping because they were jumping in the scene for everybody, you know, that was doing the roller derby. And the director walked up to him and he whispered in his ear, and then he went back to filming. And I thought, oh, shoot, he's getting in trouble. He's not cheering for the crowd, so the director's not happy with him. So he stopped cheering. He just would stand there very stoically staring. And I'm like, what is he doing? He's going to mess up the scene. So the director goes over again and he whispers at him again, and he puts his hood up from his costume because they were all in Halloween costumes. And he went back to filming. So again, not cheering, just stoically standing there staring out into the crowd. And I'm like, all right, this is getting weirder by the minute. I don't know what's going on, but I hope my son's not getting me in trouble. So we went back. I went over to the director at one point and I said, is he okay? Is he not doing what you're telling him? He goes, he's doing exactly what I'm telling him to do. I said, I'm sorry, am I missing something here? He said, your son is exactly the same age of the part that we're looking for the like creepy little boy in this movie. And he's wearing a costume that looks exactly the same as the one we designed for the creepy little boy. I said, so he said, so he's now the creepy little boy. And I was like, did you just tell me my son just landed a lead role in this movie? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, that's my kid. Yep. That's him. That's my son. And I told him about it later, and he was like, yeah, it was just being me. I was like, yeah, you're my child. You're definitely mine.
Nice.
So I wouldn't be against him being in films. I think he's more, if anything, I think he would get into comedy stuff. He's a very funny kid. I mean, just really funny. He just comes up with stuff that I can't even believe he comes up with, and I'm like, you're how old? Like, and you know comedy so well. I mean, he's a George Carlin fan, studies George Carlin like it's history, you know.
See, you're a cool mom too. There you go.
I am.
Nice.
As soon as he was into comedy, I was like, well, then you need to meet the god of comedy. His name's George Carlin. Let's watch him now.
And here's some words you can't say on television.
Yes.
Learn them all.
Yes, exactly. I told him the one that he does the incomplete list of impolite words, I memorized when I was his age. So I said, you're more than welcome to memorize them. Can you say them outside of this house? No.
Yeah.
But you can memorize them.
Yeah. Nice.
So, yeah.
All right. Who has questions? If you have questions. You? Do you think maybe you have a question? Okay. Well, we'll take a couple of questions and see what we can do.
Well, The Crows is a very emotional movie, and I think we can all relate to it because we've lost something. But out of all the scenes from the movie, which one touched you the most?
That's easy. The scene where he and I said goodbye in the graveyard was extremely emotional for me. I don't remember much about it except that we spent a lot of time practicing for the scene before we started filming. And when we started filming, because I can cry on cue, so I was like, okay, I gotta cry around this part, you know. I started crying and I'd walk away from set, say goodbye to him, and as soon as the words bye came out of my mouth, I just gushed. I couldn't stop crying. And I felt like it was somehow, somewhere deep in me, like I felt like I was saying goodbye to him for real. And it really just hit me emotionally. So when I saw the film later, that was the one that always hit me. Like if I watch the movie and I don't cry up until that point, that's when my tears come.
Good question. Anybody else? Questions? You have a question? No? You're just being awesome?
He's just being a cool turtle over there.
Do you like Ninja Turtles? They're awesome.
Me too. Who's your favorite?
Who is your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Which Ninja Turtle?
Michelangelo.
Michelangelo
he
rocks.
really likes pizza.
I eat cheese pizza.
Yeah.
You may be my new favorite little dude. That's pretty.
We can be BFFs too.
Yeah. Did you see the new Ninja Turtles movie? You missed it. You'll get to see it, I promise. Whoever, make him see that movie. There you go. Ninja Turtles. What do you watch now? Like, do you like the action films? Is there any particular actor or actress that you like?
I love films in general. I can't watch things like White Chicks or, you know,
Can't we all?
Can't even think of some of the, you know, Love Guru, stuff like that. I can't watch stuff that's just dumb.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that the people that were in them didn't want you to know that they were in them after. That's essentially the same thing.
It's just, you know, I have a love for films that are really well done, and I love Coen Brothers. I love The Big Lebowski. That's one of my favorite films. I love anything that's really well done. I mean, I was a big Clockwork Orange fan. I just, you know, Blade Runner, you know, things like that. Anything done by Quentin Tarantino except Hostel is pretty much, you know, my jam right there.
I totally forgot that I even saw that movie until right then. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, that movie was, I couldn't take it. But anything that that can, you know, spark my interest. And I'm a real big critic. Like I do pick apart movies. I watch them and I'm like, damn, they, you know, put too much water in that because a minute ago there was only this much and now there's this much, and what are they thinking, you know, or whatever the situation is. But I love comedies, I love dramas, I love action. I even actually became a huge Star Wars fan recently. Very much, finally, about time. I'm 36, right? Come on.
Well, the last three they did before this one was really not enough to make anyone a fan of. So.
Right. Well, you know, it was that I would fall asleep every time I watched them because I just didn't know what they were about. I didn't get them. They didn't make sense to me. So I would just fall asleep, and then Jay here, my boyfriend, is a big Star Wars fan. I decided I'll take him to see the new Star Wars, and maybe I'll get into it. Just maybe. We watched it, and by halfway through it, I was on the edge of my seat, just in it.
Yep.
And then we went home, and I said, "You have them all on DVD, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, I have them all on Blu-ray." I said, "We're watching them tonight." So we watched all, you know, the 6 of them all in like I think about a week or 2 weeks span of time. We spent watching those just here and there when we had time. And I was like, okay, I'm hooked. I'm down. I want a Wookiee, you know. That's the way it goes. How can you not be a Star Wars fan?
That's right. I think the thing that I've enjoyed about conventions since that came out, and I saw like 5 of them yesterday, were the Rey Cosplays. Oh my gosh, they're so
great.
Incredible. We had some really awesome ones yesterday.
Yeah, there was a little girl that was dressed as Rey, a little tiny little one, and she was great.
She and the Padme and I think the Crow kid were brother and sister.
Really?
It was like a whole
that's
family.
Cool. No wonder
awesomeness.
they have great parents.
Yes, amazing parents. So, anybody else have any questions? Questions?
Yeah, that little boy's name was Draven.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was. His name was Draven, and I took a picture of him. He was awesome.
He was. I didn't notice the little crow on his shoulder till almost after he had walked by. I was like, there's a little.
Yeah, I mean,
Nice.
he did it. He said, I can't put my arms down because of the jacket, but I look cool.
Yeah, he did. He looked really cool.
I said, that's what counts.
That's right.
Do you think we should start a group to stop all the reboots? To just stop all the reboots?
Stop all the reboots.
I wish there were a way that I could literally just stand in front of the camera and just be like, you can't film this. I would do it in a heartbeat. But unfortunately, it's a monster of its own, and it's going to be whatever it is. If it gets made, it gets made. And the only thing I can say to fans out there is, if you're a true Crow fan and you loved Brandon and you loved the film, don't go see it. Don't fund them.
Right.
Don't give them the money. Don't even go see it in a theater just because you want to see how they did it. If you really want to back up the idea of them not making it, they're not going to make any money off of it then.
Yep.
It's the way
Sure.
to do it. That hit them in the pocket.
That's where they ask and find out what really
Yeah,
worked.
I mean, if you're really that curious about seeing it, illegally download it or something. I mean, you know, I mean, don't give them the money. Just don't do
say
it.
Just don't say it. Where can you guys do a fan page and stuff like that? Where can people connect with you at?
Yeah, I have a like page on Facebook. It's Facebook/Rochelle Davis the Crow, which is pretty simple to type in, and it takes you right to my like page. I have a Twitter account. It's one Rochelle Davis at one Rochelle Davis, because somebody had my name already. And I have Instagram also. It's the same, I believe, one Rochelle Davis or the Rochelle Davis. But they're all linked into my Facebook, so if you go on there, it's all on there.
Cool.
I'm even working on a web page, so my writing will be on there. And I'm also working on a book, so I will be putting out my story in more detail than a Q&A, of course. But just to show people that there's a real life behind that character
Right.
and that person that created it. So
Nice. Let's give Rochelle Davis a big round of applause. Make sure you go check her out and hang out with her over by
namaste all.
Mr. Ernie Hudson on that side of the floor.